Okay, out on a camping trip, but I finished this book while we were on the trip, so I want to finish up the summaries. And I believe we left off on chapter 19. The title of this one is In Our Own Lives. Let each of us ask, not what government will do for me, but what can I do for myself? I like that quote. Now it's funny, I've gotten to the end of this book, and while I don't know terribly much about Nixon, but I do know from reading the LP history that the party founders weren't big fans. Somewhere the sun's coming in. Let the sun shine. So I trust them. But some of the things he said, compared to what we hear now, seemed quite libertarian. But it could just be the fiscally conservative part, because obviously we would agree with that. But such is the title of this. And the author of this at the end makes it very clear that he's not a fan of this kind of rhetoric. So let's go through it. So that's chapter 19. I think we went through this. We already did 19, because I remember some of these. 20, I would say. And the title of 20 is just January 22nd, 1973. But I'm keeping the title of that other one in, because those comments about the author, I think I'd like to keep. So, chapter 20, January 22nd, 1973. It's a Monday. It was a day no one had marked down for significance. The indefatigable, I know the word, I just can't pronounce it. Indefatigable. The indefatigable. I will not be. Yeah, and I'm recording. She's sleeping on a pillow. Indefatigable? There we go. That's not a word I'm going to be using daily. Packed his bags. Henry Kissinger packed his bags for Paris and appeared early at the White House for one final meeting with the president before flying off to initial the Vietnam Peace Accords. And delivered to the White House were bundles of Time magazine, and they got the scoop. Inside was an article titled The Sexes, Abortion on Demand. Just remember how big that was for that time. And however you feel about the subject, just saying, wow, that was a big thing. And here is a picture of Henry Kissinger flying to Paris. Now, some of the women who had argued in the lower courts, the case that became Roe v. Wade in the Supreme Court, they were very inexperienced, new attorneys. But one of them said, never in any of our briefs had we suggested anything about a trimester approach to pregnancy. Almost never do attorneys find a concept for the first time in the opinion in their own case. But here exactly that had happened. I wonder where the concept had come from. Now Warren Burger, the Chief Justice, said, and it says whose 3-paragraph concurring opinion ended by declaring, plainly the court today rejects any claim that the Constitution requires abortion on demand, was absolutely livid when he found out about the Times leak in the story, which was titled, The Sexes, Abortion on Demand, which he denies that they did. Turns pretty much, though, that they did, right? Well, at least Roe and its progeny. According to Powell biographer John Jeffries, Burger sent a confidential letter demanding that the justices question their clerks and threaten lie detector tests to uncover the culprit who leaked this story. Then there was another Roe versus Wade scoop. Oh, excuse me. This one, David Beckwith was an acquaintance of Powell's clerk, Larry Hanman, who's the one who leaked the story. And that same reporter leaked another article. Actually, it wasn't leaked another article. He wrote another article that caught Nixon's attention, entitled Trials, the Spy in the Cold. Beckwith had scored an interview with Howard Hunt. The resulting article claimed that Hunt had convinced the Miamians to plead guilty, promising each defendant up to $1,000 for every month spent in prison. In addition, the article explosively asserted that Hunt had told the Miamians that the Watergate bugging had been approved by the White House. specifically 2 presidential advisors. Former Attorney General John Mitchell, then head of the Committee for the Re-election of the President, and Charles W. Colson, who at the time was on the White House staff as special counsel to the president. Nixon was in a white fury when he read the names of Mitchell and Colson as the responsible actors in the commissioning of the Watergate break-in. Then that same day, LBJ had his heart attack. And as he was being rushed to the hospital, that was the first live interruption of Walter Cronkite's evening news program in history. And he, of course, passed away. And Nixon noted, "It's the first time in 40 years there hasn't been a former president." And Colson said, "My God, I hadn't thought of that." And at the day's end, this hectic, drama-filled day of such profound significance, Harry Blackmun wrote in his diary simply, "Abortion decisions down, LBJ dies." Okay, got interrupted before, but continuing. If I can find the chapter. Chapter 21. All right, payback time for the anti-war people. So I think right where it cut off, it said, the lights are flickering in here, gaslight. He even encouraged Colson to sue Time for libel over the Watergate story. Nixon was as angry about not being on the cover, I think it's of, was it Time? Of Time, on the week of his inauguration as he was about the glorification of what he thought was an immoral film. He did not like pornography. And then they moved on, Colson and Nixon, to talk about the abortion decision. And Colson said it encourages permissiveness, and Nixon said it breaks the family. So, in the speech that Nixon gave after the signing of the peace agreement, it says some picked up on Nixon's snub of anti-war Americans in his speech. Senator Harold Hughes, a Democrat from Iowa, said that the president left out the need for reconciliation here at home. Hughes was disappointed, he said, that there were no healing words from the president for those like him who had opposed the war. So, war, at least for right then, was over. Said it was the end of a nightmare. But was it the beginning of another? Mrs. Haldeman, per Nixon's instructions, had given a written memo to Kissinger prior to a briefing that Kissinger was going to give, directing him to give no quarter whatever to the Doves. Kissinger did not follow the script. He wanted to have peace at home. It says there were unmistakable portents of the peace accords stillbirth. And that will be dealt with in other chapters. Next up, 22.